What's up, everybody? Supreme Decisions here, and today I am at Astrobuds here in New Mexico. Now, a lot of you are going to wonder why we're here and what am I talking about? Today, I'm going to talk about the rules for cannabis. Now, there's a road here where ordinary turn can change the legal meaning of everything in your car. Not because the plant changed, not because your intent changed, not because a receipt disappeared, but because the map changed. Because anybody that's familiar with Sunland, it is literally, you can go from one side of the street to the other side of the street, and you've gone from Texas to New Mexico. And you can make a purchase here in New Mexico, under New Mexico state's law for the most part, and step into a vehicle, drive a few minutes, and you're in Texas, and discover the same object now sits inside a different set of legal systems. The package looks the same, the receipt looks the same, you look the same. You haven't even consumed anything. You've just picked up. But the rule book on what you picked up has changed, and the state does not have to honor your story because you're on a different side of the line. Now, tonight, or today right now, because it's actually beautiful out here, is going to be what they call a field briefing. Not how to buy cannabis, not how to use cannabis, but how to beat a test, not how to hide anything from law enforcement. This is about jurisdiction, search pressure, statement discipline, and the expensive distance between what feels legal and what law actually permits, because there is a big difference. Now, as you see, again, I'm on a patio at Astrobuds here in Sunland Park, New Mexico, where I'm good. I'm actually drinking, got my little infused drink. Yeah, you know, you got your boy Pink out. Anyway, this location matters because it puts the lesson in the real world. New Mexico permits adult use cannabis within its own regulatory system. Texas sits literally across the street, literally, with a different set of criminal code. Federal law operates across both. 3 maps, 3 sets of consequences, 1 person making a decision under pressure. And before we move on, hear this clearly. I am not your lawyer. This program is legal education, and nothing tonight is individual legal advice. That's what the consultations are for. Law changes, facts matter, local practice matters, and if you have a real case, that's when you actually seek real assistance, let's call it that. Also, here's the safety rule. I am at this point sober. The product has sober transportation, and this program does not encourage anyone to drive after consuming cannabis. Does not encourage that, because I am not driving. And if you are impaired, do not drive. Arrange a ride, such as what I've done. And stay protected. Protect your life before you protect your pride. Now, let's get into some real stuff. All right, I'm gonna read into the 3 moves: the rule, the trap, and the response. The question is simple. Can something be brought legally and still become the center of an arrest? And that answer is yes, if not dealt with properly. And the most important question is whether you recognize the pattern before pressure making you make decisions for you, right? Start with the first principle. It's legal where purchased does not mean legal where carried. Next part is people speak about cannabis law as though the country made one decision. It did not. We have overlapping systems when it comes to this. Now, map 1 is New Mexico. An adult 21 and over, New Mexico law permits specific personal possession and use within the state's rules. Consumption belongs in a private residence or A licensed consumption lounge. Make sure you stay hydrated. And the fact that possession is lawful does not make impaired driving lawful. Those are separate ideologies and separate actual incidents. That distinction is everything. Possession, place, conduct, driving, separate boxes. And a lot of times what people do, they try to encompass all of that into one and then make an argument based off of the original start instead of going after the element in which created the stop in first beginning. The next one is because, as everyone knows, I live in Texas, across the street, literally. And Texas has not adopted New Mexico's adult use system. Possession is a usable quantity of marijuana remains an offense under Texas law, with the grade turning on weight and other factors. Again, a litany of other things that we're going to talk about. But at the end of the day, it's understanding what it is that you are talking about. Texas has regulated the hemp market. That does not mean every substance labeled hemp, CBD, or illegal THC is automatically safe from that investigation. Product chemistry, concentration, labeling, laboratory evidence, and specific statutes matter. A package is evidence. It is not a legal force field. And now the third map is federal law. This is where the trick comes in, and this is where most people miss. Crossing a state line is not transformed into lawful conduct by a state receipt. New Mexico's own regulators warn consumers that cannabis brought in New Mexico should stay in New Mexico. That's the warning. Federal law schedule changed in 2026 for certain FDA-approved marijuana products and marijuana subject to state medical licensing. But other forms remain federally controlled under Schedule 1. That changes does not create a national permission slip for recreational products to move between states. And that is the biggest thing here, because you have a lot of people that don't have a medical license that are, I shouldn't even use license, a medical card. And they actually go out, they purchase for, literally a litany of things. And then they go home and cross the border, and then doing something crazy, they get stopped. They don't know what to say, don't know what to do. And then all of a sudden, now this product is sitting on your seat because you're not hiding it, because you don't know that you're doing something illegal. And because of that, the plain view, and it goes into a whole nother circus. But understanding the option is there is when you understand how to defeat what's going on. Because federal law asks one question. Specifically, when interstate movement, firearms, federal property, immigration, or federal employment enters the picture. That's all that federal law cares about, because transporting becomes different types of numerology. Goodness, how about we just stop using that one? Comes a different set of numbers on deciding on how that's done. The law numerical, that's beautiful. See, that's why you have other people here that's not retarded like yourself. So the law does not care that these three maps fit in a different, pretty much, scope. You have to understand what it is you're doing, how you're doing it, but you also must understand how to defend it. And that's one of the things that we talk about. I want you to picture this. It's Friday night. A person will call, let's call him Jordan. Is 27 years old. Jordan comes to Summerlin Park with two friends. Everyone is an adult. The venue checks identification. Jordan purchased a sealed cannabis product from a licensed New Mexico retailer. Let's say Astro Buds. Jordan keeps the receipt. No fight, no distribution, no allegation that the person involved or violated New Mexico law. Jordan eats dinner, does not consume any of the cannabis on camera or anything like that. for this hypothetical, let's say Jordan does not consume any at all. That matters because possession and impaired driving are separate issues. We're not going to smuggle impairment into a possession problem. The group leaves. Jordan puts the sealed package in a backpack, similar to what I do all the time. Behind the passenger seat, a friend drives. They head east. They're heading to Texas. At some point, the vehicle crosses into Texas. Nothing flashes. There's no movie soundtrack, no voice announcement. Your legal status has changed. But the legal tyranny has not. 10 minutes later, a Texas officer observes the vehicle. Maybe the officer believes they're doing some lane change violations. You know, the things that they use to start this process. Emergency lights are activated. Now watch how the simple fact pattern grows. The driver gets nervous. Jordan is nervous. The backseat passenger starts recording. The officer asks, "Where are you coming from?" The driver says, "Dinner." Jordan says, "We just came from a dispensary, but everything is legal. I have a receipt." One, let's start off there. Never volunteer information. Because I've given you several videos where I spoke about when an officer asks, "Where are you coming from?" The whole context is to get you to incriminate yourself. And basically, we are just coming from nowhere. What was the violation? That is the response. What is the violation that you believe happened? You keep it on the officer not volunteering information not asked for. Because you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to not self-incriminate. You also have the right to actually be quiet. Here's my driver's license. What infraction do you believe that I have committed? And stay there. Do not do the "we're just coming from a dispensary." Because that is part of the change. That is part of admitting to a crime. Because at the end of the day, it is not anyone else's business. And keep it that way. And then the officer will go into, whose product is it? Jordan answers, "Mine, but nobody used it." "Where is it?" Jordan points at the backpack. Now it's a concealment. Because all of these, within 30 seconds, create something in Texas that would be not a non-issue here in New Mexico. Now, the receipt may prove a lawful purchase, because again, you're not doing anything wrong. But that does not mean that you're not committing a crime. So always understand that, because one fact adds to another fact, adds to another fact, which then build a case against yourself. So, most people can imagine a criminal case because when an officer finds contraband, often the case becomes easier, right? But the biggest part of it is reasonable suspicion when doing so. When you don't give it and you don't allow it, they have nothing to run with. So, I was actually going to do this longer, but I'm going to cut this one short today. Always think about whenever you're going out and you're doing certain things, do not offer probable cause, do not offer information beyond what is necessary, and do not try to hold court on the side of the street. Because at the end of the day, they're going to use things like, "Oh, you seem like you were nervous." They're going to create something that you yourself need to not be interacting in. Follow everything. And you know what, Nikia? That is correct. Giving up the driver's license without asking the question first is a form of the Fourth Amendment, giving up your rights against self-incrimination, which is fifth anyway. But yes, that is 100% correct. That is why you ask the question and do not just volunteer everything. Now, one of the strongest statements you can make if the officer starts to escalate is, "I want a lawyer." And then say, oh, well, we're not at that stage. Well, ask them, are you asking me questions? That answer is always yes. So I choose to remain silent until I have a lawyer present. And what happens then, any continued conversation, any continued questions, any continued interrogation is now subject to suppression, as well as by other violations. So when you're out enjoying yourself, understand, don't do it impaired. And whenever you're going out, don't volunteer unnecessary information. Be safe when you're out and doing a relaxing and sometime therapeutic thing. So I appreciate you guys. I'm going to be back on. I'm actually going to drop a couple videos later on today. So be on the lookout. And this is Supreme Decisions, and this is some field work. Talk to you guys soon. End.